is there anything that you particularly miss by not playing the cello?
It's the connection.
Things that you're glad to be
Well, I tell you, one thing I'm really glad is not travelling with it. I mean, it's getting worse and worse and worse. But every time I travelled by plane, there was something wrong. Even if you had seats for the cello, everything, there was always something wrong with the booking.
Yes.
Never stand behind a cellist at the check-in desk. You're going to miss your flight. You know. But I think the biggest thing I miss is a sort of musical connection with an audience. That's always, as you know so well, a very special thing. Always different everywhere you go. When you walk on that stage and make music, it's a joint experience, really, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
And I miss that.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I often think what life might be like if you had to stop playing an instrument, and I find that in my own situation that I'm beginning to shed certain pieces of music, but from that you're allowing time for other things to grow. And it isn't just a case of, well, you just stop doing something, that it's amazing how creative the mind still is. You can go in different ways.
I mean, I know I would have gone on, I think, for as long as I felt I was, able to play at a certain standard. I would have gone on, but maybe things are meant to be. I would never have done this.
Sure,
And it's interesting seeing that, our colleague and friend Tasmin Little has actually made a decision to retire early. And I've spoken a lot to her about that. And, she seems very confident about the future and feels that it's time to do something different. I mean, we both know how full-on the music profession is.
It is.
And I think the only way we can cope with it sometimes, and all the travelling and everything, is because we love it so much. But it is a tough life. Much harder than people think. I think on the road all the time.
Yes, I think that is true. And meanwhile, you have to present your best often
all
at the
time.
End of the day.
Yes.
Always. And it is interesting.
I mean, that was a strange thing for me, because I used to you probably found that you were sort of most awake at 7 and 8 in the evening when you had and that completely changed for me. It's like you aim towards that, the adrenaline is there at all the wrong times, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny because I remember reading or seeing something about sports people where, some people function well in the morning or afternoon or evening or whatever it is, and it can just make that difference between winning or losing.
I'm sure.
In certain situations. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. And I mean, you mentioned the whole idea of being a principal of a major institution like this, how big a learning curve it's been. I mean, has there been any surprises for you?
Yes, quite a lot. But probably the biggest one, because we are part of a university and we're actually the only conservatoire that's part of a university in the UK, which has its pluses and its big difficulty at the moment, is that we lost our specialist institution funding, which all the other conservatoires get, which I obviously think is wrong. We were a founder member of Conservatoires UK. We are totally, anyone who comes here will know that we are offering a complete conservatoire education. And interestingly, which is something I sort of really took on board only last week, we teach the students from the other university, University of Birmingham, over 2,500 hours a year, because we have facilities here that they haven't got. So to think that we are just a department of a university is completely wrong.
Sure.
And of course, these people who made the decision to take our funding away, they've never been here, they've never seen it. So they don't really know. And I think they're hiding behind a rule. And I think the whole thing is too London-centric. Here we are in the West Midlands, the only music college for miles around, doing a lot of outreach work, reaching 5,000 children in the area. And we get nothing, and the four London colleges between them are getting over £16 million.
That's extraordinary.
So I feel very strongly about that, because we have created something very special here, and I don't want to see it fall away through lack of funding.
Absolutely, and it just seems a constant thing. It's a funding.
Yes.
All of the time.
Yes,
when
it
we
does.
Talked about the consortium and
Yes. Well, when I first saw Stephen Maddock here, who runs the CBSO, he's been here, I think, about 15 years, maybe even longer than that. And he said when he first took the job of managing director, about 5% of his time was fundraising, and now it's literally 95%.
Yes.
Because there have been so many cuts.
Yes.
It is consuming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I can relate to that because an awful lot of the projects that I'm currently involved with at the moment, honestly, the meetings that we have to go through and talk about funding,
Yes.
and meanwhile,
I'm sure.
all you want to do is to create something that has that makes a difference,
Yes.
I suppose. But I mean, it's interesting though, with the consortium back in the 2000s, and your principal here at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, but yet you still are involved with so many other schemes that, helps youngsters come in contact with music. You started the In Harmony scheme. I mean, this is very interesting.
And it is interesting because it's actually survived already quite a lot of regime changes, in that it was started under the Labour government and it is still continuing. So I think that's about 4 changes of government, and it has been a proven success, and it's changed those children's lives.
Absolutely. Just a little question I have. Has your listening of music in general, and also to the cello, has that changed since you've retired from playing? Has anything, from being the participator of the sound to...
A very clever question.
Yeah.
Yes, it has probably. I have to say that, I find it quite difficult to go to concerts with cello concertos. Whereas I didn't when I was doing them myself.
Oh, that's interesting.
But when I was always interested to hear colleagues in performance, really interested. But now that I can't do it, I do find it sometimes quite painful to...
Oh, that's interesting.
To, just because I would love to do it. And of course, when I'm here all the time, I don't think about that. But if you're actually sitting in a concert with somebody playing the Elgar, to me, I find that quite hard.
That's very interesting. I think I have possibly the opposite feeling, where
Really?
if I see someone playing a percussion concerto or recital, I obviously enjoy that, but I always feel I'm looking at it from a percussionist point of view, from the musician's point of view, from the sound creator's point of view, and I can't kind of sit still.
No, I know.
Whereas I think
it's
if
difficult.
I had stopped playing, I would just say, yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes, that we're so involved with music all the time that I don't actually go home and listen to a lot of classical music. I don't listen to a lot of music at all, full stop. When you're surrounded by it all the time, I think it's good to step away a bit.
That's true.
Keep it